Hi there. This video is kind of a cooperative effort with Mr. Max's video about long distance riding or road tripping. Three things I basically want to cover here are theory, things to look out for, and good ideas like auxiliary tanks. Theory is you go somewhere and you experience it on a bike, which is a lot better than a car because you're not kept in some little cabin behind glass and doors and windshields. You're not operating the instrument cluster, which in turn does something which causes the vehicle. You're actually using your body, you're moving, you're actually experiencing the road and the environment around you, which makes things a lot more fun. And I mean, you really feel like you have traveled there, and you personally, as opposed to just, hopping on a plane and showing up. So I mean, yeah, if you're in a giant country like America or Canada or wherever, if you got all that land, use it. And I mean, even if you can't use a giant country, if you've got like an open border, or if you have the ability to travel to other countries with ease, do that too. It's not limited to land mass, right? Anyway, so just a few things to touch on. Mr. Max was talking about different bikes you can use. That's a Katana 750 in Sydney, Nova Scotia. So yeah, sport touring definitely works. That's a DRZ 400 in my driveway, and not only can it go anywhere, but if you notice, it's also in the winter. They don't, apparently Santa hats are not DOT certified, so just a heads up, don't try that. But a lot of people are like, oh, it can only be on the best of sunny days, da-da-da-da-da. I gotta, plan my whole trip around whether or not, oh, no, it looks like it's gonna rain, can't go. No, not true. You can get there, trust me. That's a 35-year-old KZ 1000. That's in London. So, honestly, you can get where you need to go. Well, not in Ontario, but the point that I'm making is, there's a GSX-R 1000 in Indianapolis. Don't limit yourself, don't kid yourself about weather, don't kid yourself about your bike. You can get there. Last bit of this theory, though. Not only are you going to experience the environment more, but this is a shot I took on a ferry heading to Victoria Island off the coast of BC. If you notice, there's a lot of bikes there. In fact, they have reservation lanes specifically for bikes. Not only that, but it's cheaper to get on a bike as a car. It's also cheaper to get on, or it's also better to get on because you bypass hours of waiting. There's a lineup going all the way up the mountain with cars that have been sitting there waiting to get on this boat all day long. And as a motorcyclist, you get treated as a pedestrian, and you just kind of roll right on whatever it's convenient to you. They have the whole line. There's 5 lines of cars sitting there, and they wait and they wait and they wait, and you just kind of roll down the first line that they're not allowed on and just hop on the boat whenever it's convenient for you. So there's the experience, and there's also a lot of other benefits. You save a lot on gas, you save a lot on ferries, you save a lot on everything really. So it's more practical in some ways too. Then the next thing I want to talk about are things to look out for. Since you're not in a cabin, there is weather. That's a concern, right? That's like Hobo Engineering 101. I got hit by what's called a level 10 rainstorm, and I'm pretty sure that's not how they measure them in Canada, so I don't even know what that meant. But that was my lined jeans being dried out by a hairdryer. That wasn't fun. So, though you shouldn't stop your trip for weather, I would at least recommend, maybe looking ahead a little or pulling over or something, not being dumb, because that was not fun. On weather, both of these arms are supposed to be white. Mine's the one on the bottom. The other one's my buddy's in Nanaimo, and after driving 15 hours a day for 3 days to get there, I wasn't white anymore. Now, that's not really a problem. In fact, it's kind of cool. However, some people peel and burn, and you don't want to ruin your trip having, wind hit you at 120 kilometers an hour when it feels like it's going to rip your skin off because you're covered in sunburn, right? So if you're going to be exposed to the sun for prolonged periods of time, wear sunscreen. Now, I know that sounds stupid, and it sounds very self-explanatory, but, you know, sometimes you're thinking, hey, motorcycle, and you're not really thinking sun, you know, but you're going to be in it. So, I mean, you don't have a roof over your head, right? Now, last thing we have is the bike I used to take to Victoria Island. Now, if you notice, it's got this auxiliary tank on it. That's pretty much what the purpose of this video is. Everything done here is wrong. Do not do it the way I did it. Right now, I have one that is, well, first off, it came from coyotegear.com, which is a brilliant place. I mean, they have all the brackets you need to attach to everything. They have all the little valves and all the little connectors and, you know, fuel filters, and they will make them custom built to order, and they have all kinds of different dimensions, and they have off-the-shelf ones that have some kind of generic different options. And great place. Aluminum tanks, don't rust. Great. Point is, they supply you with brackets and things to mount it to something solid, and, well, I didn't. I held it on with bungee cords, which, when you purchase it, it says specifically not to do. Don't do it. I don't know, I just kind of wanted to hop on my bike and go, and the thing came in the mail a day before my trip, and I didn't have anything I needed, so I just kind of did it. Don't do that. It's a bad idea. Now, this is my horrible, horrible diagram. I apologize in advance. But this is basically just a simple explanation. Here you have your little peanut tank, or whatever it is, your primary tank. Here you have your auxiliary tank. This is your petcock, and it goes down to your carbs, right? And the goal of an auxiliary tank is to provide extra fuel. I mean, this held 12 liters, this held 26. So, I mean, instead of stopping every 300 or 400 kilometers for gas, you could stop every, 1,000 or 1,500. And you might ask, well, why is that an advantage? One, if you're really trying to get somewhere, you have to make less stops so you get there faster. Two, in a lot of areas where there's a smaller population density, there's a smaller fuel station density, which means they're further apart, and you need to be able to stretch further before you can get to another stop, right? And sometimes 300 kilometers just isn't enough. So a lot of people work around that by carrying jerry cans and other stuff like that, but then you still have to pull over and pour, and it's just a pain. Whereas this way, you just kind of water right on the road, pull a valve, and there you get an extra 3 times your original fuel capacity, right? Which is cool. It may not be that much of a problem in the States, but I know that traveling through like the prairies, or I don't know, if you're going through like Central America, you're going to find some stretches, but like there's going to be places where you want more gas, that's all. And this is what you did, or what I did. I find it a little bit more practical when you're actually driving. I mean, it's a little bit more expensive, so possibly less practical, depending on how you look at it. But with an old carbureted bike, it's really easy. You take a fuel line from the tank and merge it to your existing fuel line. Done. Thing is, if you notice, this line is drawn a lot thicker, and that is because I've heard complaints about there not being adequate fuel, or it's, there's not enough, or you're burning dry, or yada 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 yada. So the existing fuel line on a motorcycle is usually this, like, I don't know what it's called, but it's some imperial measurement, and it's really thin. And then you have, anyway, the point is, if you have a fuel filter, it'll be around here somewhere. I put this behind the fuel filter because I didn't feel like installing a separate one. However, I know a lot of people put a fuel filter here, but ultimately, a lot of problems occur when people put this after the fuel filter and then they don't install one. And then, they're like, oh, why are my carbs all blah, 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 because they've been driving on the same dirty gas they always have, but now there's no filter to do anything about it, right? Because the larger of the 2 tanks is unfiltered, so I put this behind the fuel filter. On top of that, I mean, you could install your own fuel filter and then bypass the filter on the existing line, or you could run it through 2 filters. I mean, take your pick. But the reason I have the thick line is so that it encounters less resistance, because this tank is sitting a lot further back and a lot further away than your primary tank, so that fuel has a lot longer to flow, and I assume, you know, longer distance means more resistance. That's an electrical thing. Maybe it applies to flow or pressure. I'm not entirely sure. I figured better not chance it. So I used that big, thick, fat fuel line they use for cars, right? Got myself a little T-joint at the hardware store. Canadian Tire, I don't know. The guys in America might use like Lowe's or something. But I think they called it a varying diameter connection or something like that. But it basically just looks like a T, and each end has these little things, or little rings, and they get bigger and bigger and bigger. That way you can stick a small hose on to, you know, the small one, and then you clamp that on. Oh, hose clamps. You need hose clamps. Figure it's self-explanatory, but you don't want your fuel line popping off and spraying gas all over the place while you're driving. That's not a good idea. It's also got thicker rings for, you know, the big car one too, right? So those are cool. Another thing you want to grab, which usually, I mean, if you buy this at Coyote gear, it comes with it. You get, you know, an extra fuel valve. This symbolizes a fuel filter. Anyway. One thing that I learned the hard way is if this is much higher up and whatnot, and has a much thicker fuel line, you can only have one valve on at a time. So if you're driving and you have this in the on position and this in the on position, since this is a lot more gas and heavier and higher up, gravity is going to force it down, and since it's going through a thicker hose than your normal fuel line, it'll be more than what your cards can handle, and it'll actually end up going up and getting like siphoned into this other tank, and it ended up spewing at the top vent of my primary tank. So when you're running on this, you need to shut this petcock into the off position if this is open, and likewise, when you open this, this shuts. That way, you know, it doesn't start draining down here if this one is empty, right? So you want to make sure you've only got one valve on at a time. Actually, no, that wasn't a fuel filter, that was a quick release line. I drew this diagram a few days ago, but the point is, if you don't want all that extra clutter and all that stuff, and you don't always want to have this, and you want to have it just for, you know, your road trips, there's like quick release, I don't know if they're called valves or disconnects or whatever, which basically, you know, it's exactly what it sounds like. You pull the hose off, and it's sealed so that this fuel is, you know, sitting here and you don't get any air bubbles or any problems with the flow the next time you connect it. Or you don't have to, like, you know, resuction it or something ridiculous. The point I'm making is that there is a way that you can just make all that disappear whenever you feel like it. It doesn't necessarily have to be before or after any valve or anything. I just happened to put the line there because it looked nice and almost symmetrical. Yeah, this is a grounding wire. They provide you with one at Coyote Gear. I'm not sure if they always do, but they provide you with one, and you ground that to your frame so that, you know, when you pull up and whatever, you start filling it up, it doesn't explode on you, because that's not good, right? This is the vent. The vent on the Coyote ones is at the top. They provide you with this clear, like, surgical tubing looking stuff to let it trickle down. And they have a baffle. They have an internal baffle so the fuel won't slosh around too much. But, I mean, obviously you're leaning the bike and yada yada yada. So there's going to be some sloshing and some little drops will trickle out the vent. However, that being said, that happens with every fuel tank. Probably less so with these because of the baffle. Cool thing, though, they provide you with is a puke tank, which is like a small little thing. It's about the size of a pop can, and its vent is at the top here, and it fills up and fills up, and if it gets to the top, you gotta let them out. But the idea is you stop it before that. So you've done a day of driving, say, and you dribble little bits of gas here and there, and Mother Nature says, "Ow, why'd you do that?" And then your pocket says, "Hey, that's, you know, $1 of gas." Yada yada yada. Why you? This way, it catches all of that, and then at the end of the day, you just kind of pop that off and pour it back in the tank, and there you go. That way you're not wasting the gas and Mother Nature doesn't, give you dirty looks. I actually ended up putting the vent line from my primary tank to there as well, just because I liked it so much. Yeah, so ground, fuel tank, one valve at a time. Oh, one thing. This is all assuming you have a carbureted engine. If you have a fuel-injected engine, there's some issues because they have fuel pumps, right? So you're going to have to find the specs on the fuel pump you have and match the PSI and find like an appropriate substitute fuel pump for this line. And if you don't do that, I've seen some people who route this into their tank, like they get rid of this vent and make like a sealed, like I guess airtight connection, and then they just run all of their fuel from here through here so that they're using a stock fuel pump. In my opinion, that looks kind of nasty because this can all be, under your fairing or under your seat or somewhere nice. But if it's come to the top of your tank, like it just kind of looks not nice. But yeah, I would recommend getting a small pump and running it. Same layout, just somewhere around, I don't know, here or somewhere. Just put the fuel pump. But I've never really put an auxiliary tank on an injected engine, just because all the bikes that I have that are injected are like, 4-cylinder inline super sport, yada 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 yada. And I'll take one to Indianapolis, but I don't necessarily go anywhere that would require an auxiliary fuel tank. So yeah, never really been a major concern of mine. Anyway, take a road trip, go somewhere, see the places, experience the actual the terrain, the environment around you. It's just better. Do it.